One. Boom. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Sakian. And today, on Sunday, April 1st, we're sitting down with Nick Hamas.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to have Nick. Nick and I met in 2010 at the University of Minnesota. It's been 8 years. It's crazy to even think that it's been 8 years since we've known each other. It's blowing my mind. Nick and I were exact polar opposites in the freshman year of college. I was running around being social and doing all this crazy stuff related to like trying to be an entrepreneur and doing other stuff that was very naughty in college. Meanwhile, Nick was focused on his triple major in linguistics, computer science, and philosophy. And then he was really involved with first robotics. I didn't know about these things when Nick and I were interacting. We weren't anywhere near as close as we are now. Now, Nick, I moved here 6 years ago. Nick moved here about 4 years ago. He's been at Google the last 3.5 years, doing things like optimizing their engineering hiring process. So this is going to be a blast. We've both been you recruited me into First Robotics now. I'm loving it. And you guys, you'll see that. We'll post a video of Team 3132 Thunder Down Under, who won the Chairman's Award last year at the World Championship. And we'll post that video soon, and you'll get to see kind of what these two sisters from Sydney, kind of how they build the future with First Robotics and inspire people around the world with it. So, all right, that's a little bit of a background about like us, but now more about you. So what led you to even care about these three subjects that you ended up majoring in and then getting involved with first? Walk us down that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think computer science was always like the natural obvious one for me. Like I started learning programming, I learned CSS, HTML, a little bit of JavaScript just on my own playing around when I was 13. I started like trying to program video games after that, and I'm sure I would be horrified by the code that I wrote back when I was 14, but I just always kind of enjoyed like that you can do anything on a computer and anybody can sort of, like the world is being changed and revolutionized by this technology, and it's totally accessible and democratized. Like if you have the know-how to like get going and figure it out, you can do anything. And I always loved that it's like sort of creative playthings that can change the world.
Yeah.
The other interests sort of came on a little bit more subtly. One of my big interests when I was in high school, because I always, ever since I was a tiny little kid, since I was 5, I could recite all sorts of facts about the presidents. And I really got into political philosophy in high school. Like I was reading some of Thomas Jefferson's like political philosophy work. I was reading some Locke, like a lot of that. And I thought I wanted to do political science, realized, no, I really liked the political philosophy aspect of it more, and found that like philosophy more broadly really interested me. And like that sort of like methodologically thinking about big, abstract, hard problems, or really the general tools to think about any problem are the domain of philosophy.
Yep. And this is where you and I bond so well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And linguistics, it's a social science. So it has a lot of that like methodological taking apart of things. And I just always naturally took to languages. Like I took Latin in middle and high school. I took Japanese. I took German in high school. Like I just have always loved languages. And like sort of as a place to look at applying that problem set and just the natural intersections of like language theory that's both in the domain of computer science and of linguistics. Like there's just so much natural harmony with the other things that I took my intro to linguistics thinking that I would be a German major at one point and realized I really wanted to study linguistics more.
And then that's all crazily happening at the same time. That's like probably one of the largest, if not the largest workload that you can probably do in 4 years. Did you do 3.5?
I did 4.
You did 4, but that's still crazy because it's freaking 3 majors.
I never really stopped going.
Yeah, and education's not, and we both know this, education's not limited to high school and college. Education's lifelong.
Yeah,
endeavor.
I mean, education isn't a place. Education is like a way of being.
Yep, yep.
That you can go to a school and not be educated, just as much as you can not go to a school and become educated.
Exactly. So as you're doing that, you somehow managed to get involved in First Robotics, and then you decided that this was something that you wanted to, going from Nick, who I knew similarly to me, who you knew in college. It's so funny because we both kind of took exact opposites. We bursted out of our bubbles that we were in. I was in a bubble of ignorance to all these important subjects that are going on in the world. I was much more ignorant about them, and I think that you were more in a bubble of not wanting to show your true colors, you being truly vulnerable to doing things like emceeing a whole audience at a 1,000+ seat robotics event. And so it was very interesting how we ended up doing that. And okay, so now you end up, being on the team, inspiring the Gophers, Minnesota's, the team to get better, to grow, to prosper, and then you start mentoring, you start emceeing, game announcing, judging. Like, tell us about this.
Oh yeah, I mean, the whole story?
Yeah, give us a Cliff Notes version.
Okay, yeah. So it was my freshman year. I ended up meeting like so many of my now wonderful dear friends who had started Go First, the robotics group at University of Minnesota, and they built robots and did outreach. I sort of came for the building robots. I was working on some computer vision stuff and stayed for the outreach, as it were. Every year I did a little bit more, but we actually, the really seminal moment, I went to the first championship in 2011. Yeah. And I had gone there like, oh, I helped program this robot. I'd like to, see how it does. This sounds like a fun thing to do.
You didn't think you'd be walking into Disney World.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it absolutely just blew my mind, the scale of it, the amazing things people were doing. I was just soaking it in.
Me too.
Yeah. And I went from that. The year after, I became a volunteer. The year after that, I became a mentor. The year after that was my senior year, and I was running Go First.
Yep, that's huge. Yep, that's a huge indication of leadership, and that's major.
Yeah, and I've learned so many things along the way from just so many inspirational people and, my friends around the world, really.
Yes, and this is very fascinating because the story that you roped me in, is it 3 years now? It feels like it
I think it was 3 years ago.
Almost 3. It's getting there. When Nick roped me in here in the Bay Area, I never thought that I would, attend an event, drink the Kool-Aid, and then just get balls to the wall involved with First Robotics. But it was the moment when the Tigerbots won the Inspire Award at the Daly City qualifying tournament, and this is a team full of girls, 13 to 18-year-old girls. And, it was incredible for me seeing an incredibly male-dominated field of engineering have 13 to 18-year-old girls winning the top-tier award at a tournament. Teared me up, it teared them up. It was incredible, and that was my first experience. So, from then on, I was sold. And when you get to the world championship level and you see what's going on there, you see, Brazil, Turkey, Israel, China, Australia. You see all these places across the world that are involved in, this is we're going to get to this point of the conversation later on when we talk about what society's developing into with this kind of globalized state. But the kids don't really seem to have all this nationalism versus collectivism. They just seem like you're a human.
Yeah.
And you care about First Robotics.
Like,
I do too.
You're a potential friend.
Your friend, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's not about where you're from or what you believe. It's you're a cool person who does robots too, and that's great.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
And then maybe you get into some political philosophy with them as well.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe you do. And then now that can help guide the way that they want to potentially build that future.
Yeah, but I think the amazing thing about that is that rather than, sort of this nationalist sealed off, I'm not going to talk to you, it's you already have that opening.
Yeah, you have an opening. Yep.
And it's just a natural start.
So let's do a little connection then to the video that we What, Ron? Ron. Ron, giving me all these hand gestures in the back.
Look at your mic. Look at how you put
What?
your mic on. It's on the other side.
I know,
It
it's okay.
It isn't okay because I can hear it.
Oh, is it wiggling?
No, it's just not robust like it's where we usually put it. It's fine.
Okay, all right. I'm getting better at it, everyone.
We both are.
I'm getting better
We
at
both
it.
are.
I'm working on it, okay? Okay. So, Alan learned another lesson in mic placement that he's now
Go
going to be
back to
working
the
on.
show.
All right,
So,
all right.
never mind. You wanted to look at a video or the photograph?
Well,
you
let's
talked
play.
about?
Yeah, let's play the video first. So we have a video to show you. The video is what the kids build, and then the kind of on the size of the field that they compete these robots on, and the objectives that they do when the robot's playing on the field. And it takes them a long time. But one of the most interesting parts about it is that they have to crunch it. The crunch time is build time 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So insane. So you get announced the game design to you 6 weeks in, what is it, second week of January or something like that?
It's the first Saturday.
First Saturday
of the year.
And then boom, and then you only get 6 weeks to build this robot. So, it's really, this is why companies like freaking Google and Apple love these kids, because they only have 6 weeks. You have this time slot, you have to get it done, and they get it done. And they build these amazing machines. Let's throw it up, Ron. It's up. All right, they're watching it. So how far along are they right now? They're like 30 seconds in?
50 seconds.
So basically what you're seeing in the video is you're seeing this team 254. That's a team that Nick also mentors. They're a team that's won the World Championship. They're a very, very tenured team. And what their robot's doing in the video that you're watching here is the objective over this year was to pick up the, what are they, boulders?
Boulders.
They're boulders, and what they're doing is then they're using an intake system to pick up the boulder. Then they're putting it into. We're using a.
It's a turret.
It's a
turret
turret
shooter.
A turret and shooter.
Yep.
And then what they're doing there with that green light that you see. Ron, can you just go back and pause? Sure. Let's go back and. You're good. Go and then just I'll tell you when. Pause it, if you could. Ready and play it again. I'll tell you when to pause it, and pause it now. Thank you. So what you're seeing is that they're taking and Nick can obviously explain this much better than I can, but they're using the strip of a circular LED to reflect
Yep.
light off of what are reflective tapes on that castle tower, and then that's able to tell them. Then they have a camera for the vision. To show where exactly they want to, where they're positioned on the field, how much strength they need to shoot that ball with to get it in, and the objective of this one. So this objective is last year's objective. So we're showing a video from
2 years ago now.
Oh
actually.
my God! What was last year's?
Last year was Steamworks.
Last year was Steamworks. How was this 2 years ago? Time flew so fast. Oh my God! I was doing field reset. Then I wasn't even judging for FRC then. So yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, so I mean, the cool thing about, and just to talk a little bit about that robot, was that it actually had a phone that was the camera rather than like a traditional network camera that a lot of teams use.
Yep.
So that had an onboard app that was actually doing the processing. And it was sending it back to the main controller so that the robot could decide where it wanted to orient the hood and actually at what angle it wanted to shoot.
Yep.
So that you could basically press a button on the driving station and drive near, and it would just it would follow. It would keep the hood at the right angle, and it would keep the turret pointing in the right direction.
So crazy at all times. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so crazy.
That was an amazing robot.
Yeah, it was, and I love how small and compact it is. And then,
Yes. It also had to go under a 16-inch bar.
has to go under a 16-inch bar
Yep.
for one of those,
Yep.
and then it also has to be able to hang from that black lever
Yep.
at the end for. There was a ranking point for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is 2 years ago's game. Then there's another game from this last year called Steamworks, and then now we're in a whole new game. But Nick, you want to show that photo from or I mean, Ron, can you show that photo from? This is from just a couple of days ago. What, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
This is Nick and I when we were getting ready in the, Nick's emceeing the tournament, so there's like 2,000 people in the audience, and he's running it as an MC. And then he's been able to train me as an MC as well. And then I'm judging this. So I'm helping the judges run so that the judges can have a good time analyzing all the teams and giving out the awards. But so it's a cool little photo. The game's called Power Up. It's a different game. We'll put a link to the trailer in the bio for the game. But firstinspires.org, we'll put that in there as well. But it's really important to get involved in your community. There's a bunch of great ways to do so. One of them is to go and become a mentor for one of the teams. One of the ways is to become a volunteer at some of the games that are being played. Most of this happens, there's a couple different levels of leagues. We touch about this in the video with Thunder Down Under, those two girls as well, but Sarah and Jay. But there's a whole First Lego League Junior, there's First Lego League, there's First Tech Challenge, and the First Robotics Competition.
Yep.
So there's these different levels from all the way from 6-year-olds all the way to 18-year-olds, and there's different, Lego robots versus literal pieces of hunky metal and computing that requires a whole bunch of work, like you were describing. But it's an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful that you roped me in and that you got involved really young. And yeah, so
It's an amazing thing. Yeah.
it is. It's so good, and it seems like it's like almost 1 million kids are now impacted by this per year. It seems like it's getting there.
I don't even know the number off the top of my head. Every year it's going up.
Yeah, and there's like something like a couple thousand teams of just
Yes,
the first robotics
there's, I
competition
believe
teams.
the first robotics competition has 3,500 or so active teams right now.
And are there like 10,000 of the first Lego League teams?
Oh, it's tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands of these
Yes.
Lego League teams. So that's, and on each team are, 5 or 10 or sometimes 15 kids. So there's, this is a big deal. This is impacting a lot of kids around the world. So, and it's getting them to understand teamwork. It's the emotional intelligence as well, the teamwork, the entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
the business stuff, and then also the hardware, the software.
I mean, it takes a lot to run a team.
Yeah.
It's not only like build a robot, do the strategy, like make sure that the robot keeps working and all of that, but like running a program, paying for your robot, because those robots are not cheap to build. And so much more that they really talk about, like, it's not really that it's a program that's about building robots, it's about building kids through robots.
Yeah, building kids through robots.
Yes.
Because these kids are being, they're entering the world post-18, and they have learned at least a little bit about engineering, at least a little bit about design, a little bit of math, technology, etc. But then they've also learned about teamwork, responsibility, accountability, fundraising, business.
Yep.
There's all these. It's a really good way to enter
Yeah.
the world.
And confidence.
Confidence, such a key.
Because, and I think especially like the older programs, like they're given tasks that are fundamentally something that, yes, can be accomplished by a large group of teenagers, but it's hard for them. And it forces them to be to stretch themselves.
Yeah.
And then when they succeed, that's a huge confidence booster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Thunder Down Under is an extreme example, but like they have started first on their continent of Australia.
Yeah.
And like they've really grown it, and they're starting to change the world.
And then what they're doing, the Compass Alliance, is all in this video that we talked about. It'll be up on our channel soon. We had to do it remotely in San Jose at the Silicon Valley Regional, which we were just at. So, okay, so what else ties Nick and I really closely together is this ridiculous, insatiable curiosity that we have, this kind of desire for being a polymath, to learn a little bit about a lot of different things at least. So this is one of the main reasons why I would say that Nick and I are one of each other's best friends, is because we have all of this insane amount of information that we've tried learning about and tried to be able to have conversations with people from all different disciplines and backgrounds about in a very calm, friendly way to try and figure out how to build the future. So, Nick, we've struggled a couple times though. You know, probably one of the times that I think we've struggled was on because you've had to teach me a lot about what you've learned in philosophy, especially. And you know, you like this is interesting. You were teaching me, I think, a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, about nihilism. And about, so maybe my first question then to you is, do you think there is a meaning or purpose to life?
I mean, not inherently, no.
So inherently there is none, because you were just these meat puppets that got birthed through evolution and we're just lucky to be conscious, but there's no goal. There's no goal ascribed to that.
I mean, not by itself. Like, goals are not a property of, an emergent property of life.
Evolution, yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
But if you were to ascribe a meaning or purpose then?
I can make one.
Okay, so that's where we make the jump. So nihilism is inherently there's no meaning or purpose to life, but now we're going to consciously make a meaning
There's
or
a
purpose.
question of how do you respond to that?
Okay.
And there are some people who have what I'm sort of inclined to say is not a great response of there's no meaning, so do anything. Which
that doesn't sound very
do anything like, yeah, no, that's like giving up hope.
Ron, I see you in the back.
I respect Nick for being a very intelligent young man, and I think he's just kind of like contradicting something inside. Sorry, Nick.
I have a strong feeling about it.
Well, you know, you say that there is no meaning in life, but then you give a hard time to the others that, if such is the case, well, they're just going to live their life, and
they are.
Oh, yeah. So
we do nothing.
I have no reason to stop them, as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Okay, so that's the thing.
Well, you're comfortable in your meaningless life.
Yeah.
But you're failing to understand its greater importance, and there is true meaning to what you do and anybody else, even these non-doers or whatnot, just the whole lot of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know.
Well, next time you chime in, throw the RoboCam on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, okay. So the first step was there is no inherent meaning or purpose in life. The next step is now society. You're saying, so shall we have individuals ascribe their own meanings and purposes to life? Shall we have a collective prescription of meaning and purpose to life?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of the latter.
You don't like the latter.
The
collective meaning and purpose.
Like, I think meaning is something personal. Like, it's something that a conscious being puts on their own actions. Like, that's what feels right to me as what meaning is.
Okay, and as long as they're not hurting anyone, that was the only other little asterisk mark. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Footnote, do whatever you want, find whatever meaning or fulfillment you want in life, but just don't kill or hurt people in that process.
Well, don't stop there. I mean, what do you don't stop there. Why say that?
So I want to challenge that rationality by saying, what if we could come up with a collective meaning or purpose? One that was so good that all 7.5 billion people were like, sure, maybe like one like don't kill, right?
That seems like a really low bar for purpose.
Okay.
Like, my purpose in life is not to kill anybody.
People. Okay, great. That's step one.
No.
Okay, that's step one though. How about we get to step two? Maybe step two is work together to eradicate suffering from other people's lives.
I like that. Like,
okay, well there we go. There's a little.
I don't think anyone ought to have to ascribe to it. But if we can build a meaning so compelling that other people want to, I think that's a great project.
Okay, so we're saying that let's say collectively a group of a couple billion people say that we want to eradicate suffering, and then the other couple billion say, well, we just want to eat food and sleep and stuff. We don't really need to focus on eradicating suffering. Some of those people will gravitate towards wanting to eradicate suffering. Some will choose not to, but it's better to not just forcefully prescribe needing to do so. Because
I think there's something that you're hand-waving just a little bit, and it's 500 million people decide something. I don't know if you've looked at like how countries run themselves, it's really hard to get 1,000 people to agree on something at that level. And a higher purpose, I think, is even harder than like what a tax code should be.
Okay, but the first one should be 7.5 billion people saying they shouldn't kill each other.
I feel like at some level we've mostly done that as a society.
When did we do this?
Yeah, because Steven Pinker can write all he wants about everybody slowly getting more and more advanced and longevity and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
But the reality is that there are still these pockets of violence that exist in the world, and that it's really important to, and there's pockets of diseases, pockets of poverty and all this stuff, pockets of malnutrition, whatever. So in order to address those things, it's important to highlight them, target them, funnel resources at them, time at them, all this kind of stuff.
I mean, those are problems we definitely should be working to solve.
I love how we're already unpacking this so well. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, let's try and pull another one. Do you think that again, can we prescribe another collective meaning or purpose to life? What about getting to the next rock that orbits a star? Could that be a fair one?
I think that's a place a lot of people find, like, if not meaning, like it's something that people see as like an aspirational goal.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, if what we want is human society to last longer than when the sun starts to expand, we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe even sooner than that. So I think it's a massive project that's emphatically worth undertaking.
But again, it's not. We're not forcing the 7.5 billion humans to decide to. Oh, you have to now want to do this.
You give them the opportunity, and you show them how valuable it is. You inspire them, and maybe some people won't do it, but there's no point in forcing them.
As long as they don't do something to harm the other ones that are trying to do it.
But who's to say that by going to Mars, what it takes is all this pain and suffering. And I don't know if you understand that, but just the economy that we created for ourselves, and just the game that we're in.
Was the game potentially the prerequisite for expanding society to the next rock?
This pain and suffering is part of the game. Yes, and
yes.
we all agreed. We all signed up. And it's gonna be over soon, and we're gonna get to the next step. But we're gonna be able to maybe take care of the planet Earth as we colonize Mars. Not everybody's gonna get to go there. Remember, Adeo Rossi. Yes. So.
Adeo Rossi, he made a really funny visual of, like, you know, all these advanced intelligent people living on Mars, and then we send this like rocket full of people to Mars that are just like these fucking apes, humans from Earth, and they're like, the fuck are you doing here? We're an intelligent advanced race now. We don't want to deal with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a little dramatized, but that is a real thing that at some point on the trajectory we're looking at would happen. Like, Mars and Earth is it 3 months that it takes to get between them? Something like that?
It depends on the place of, in the orbit, but I think approximately 6 to 9.
Okay, 6 to 9 months. So
to get to Mars from Earth?
And it depends on the speed as well. You can send a 1 kilogram package propelled by a bunch of lasers, and it can get to Mars in 1 fucking day.
Okay. Yeah. So who's to say that that's not already? I hate to be but that's probably already happening. That technology to get to Mars faster is probably already available, just not necessarily to us. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll say no more. But we need to keep this in mind. The technology that is available to us may possibly been here years ago to other people.
Oh. But okay,
it's not a conspiracy theory. You know, it's not a conspiracy theory. True. It's just a suggestion of the time-space continuum, and
it's very vast. And we're just a little grain of sand. 25 years, so 50 years is a grain of sand.
I think, assuming that we're not able to do things to manipulate space-time in a way that like prevents it, if we start sending people within 1,000 years to Alpha Centauri, you're talking about lifetimes that it takes to get between parts of human civilization. And then you're very likely to have speciation. Okay, if not Alpha Centauri, pick some landmark.
But
like,
even then speed is the big thing, but But yeah, I hear you.
You hit fundamental limits where it becomes
speciation.
human lifespans.
So let's, because speciation is another whole thing that we need to unpack in our conversation.
Yeah.
But I really want to be able to progress from nihilism. Like I kind of
Okay.
like it's like an evolution basically.
Okay.
So we've started at the root of there is no inherent meaning or purpose. Now fundamentally, just do whatever you want, but don't kill or harm people. Okay, cool. And then with doing whatever you want, maybe consider eradicating suffering. Consider going to the next rock. Consider these things. Okay, and then what do we do after that? Because aren't there more sustainable ways to feed the population? There's more sustainable ways to provide water to people. There's more sustainable ways to house people, to shelter people, to provide them with clothing, to provide them with internet and electricity and education and healthcare. So there's all these sustainable ways to provide these services to people that are really important for their life.
Yeah.
And so now we're getting to we're expanding that list of things that you don't have to participate in, but it would be great if you did decide to build in these things.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think the other thing to think about is like, there are so many hard problems, so many things that need creative and skilled problem solvers that no one can do all of them. Even the Elon Musks of the world can tackle maybe a dozen of them. And there's far more than that.
Yeah, all of his attention's on Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
vast majority. So exactly, he can't even do more than two.
Yeah. Like,
because
he
of that
started the
large.
boring company, but
Yeah. When you dedicate 2% of your time to that in OpenAI,
Yeah.
you just don't have time to do it all.
Yeah.
So that's why you need all these people and all these teams as well,
Yep.
these thousands of people at Google. Do you guys have 100,000 yet? You're at 50,000? How many people?
I don't know the number off the top of my head.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
And that's why Google is so much in different sectors of technology. It's no longer just Gmail and Android and search. It's freaking Google X, the moonshots, the all Calico. There's all this stuff.
Google Home Mini.
Google Home Mini, sponsored by Google. Hopefully one day we'll get the good old Google to sponsor simulation. Nick, work on that for us. Thank you. Okay, so good. So we made some progress. We got to kind of the things that, this would be good if people attended to these things in civilization. Okay, great. So we got to that point. Okay, that seems pretty fair. Okay, maybe we can end.
Yeah.
Do you think there's another step past that before we get to the other stuff? It kind of goes with maximize human potential.
I mean, I think, and this is something that I don't think I can export to other people, but I feel as a person who has the ability to do something about some of these that I ought to.
Yes.
But I don't feel that I have the ability to impose that ought on someone else.
Yeah. So what if I was to tell you that it is actually your responsibility to impose the ought on someone else? What if I was to say that the reason why that person is so baked in their own ignorance of a meaningless life that they think that they find meaning in just doing absolutely nothing is because of their ignorance. And it's up to brilliant people to go up and create stories or methods to get those people inspired to care more about this list of things, to participate more in it.
I mean, I think it is valuable to inspire people, but you can't win all battles.
But winning a couple, and then another person winning a couple to try and recruit people to care more.
I'd like to do my part.
Who we're supposed to inspire will come our way. We're not here to inspire. We can't think about that. Doing this we just need to just do. And those will come along that need to see us do, and they'll either learn or not, or be dicks. They'll get an opportunity to meet this effort or whatever effort you go in. And it's great to want to inspire, but don't be bogged down by, not everybody's gonna. If you thought everybody's gonna love you, I'm here to remind you that they're not.
Or that you're gonna run around and just pitch every single person on the planet. No way.
Or that everyone's gonna be inspired by what you're doing. They probably don't want stop that. They'll talk and stop you from doing what you're doing. So
yeah. Okay. All right. So then we're kind of a little bit of a split in that sense. It's like I don't think that I ought to go and tell other people that they should care more about these issues versus I care a lot about trying to tell other people that they should care about these issues.
I mean, I feel that it's hard not to care about them if you really know them and understand them. But I don't have a way to tell people that they ought to. I don't have a justification for that.
Maybe the justification engine is the education. So once you do learn about the different things, then it almost like
a power responsibility sort of.
Yeah, the more you learn, the more you want to be involved in it because you understand how important it is to society.
I mean, I think people who learn more feel the responsibility. I wouldn't put it, as a capital M, capital R moral responsibility.
Yeah. Okay, so that kind of led us down a little bit about maximizing human potential because we listed all these different things that are important to focus on in order to prosper. Do you have maybe something else that comes to mind or maybe one thing within those categories or something that we didn't discuss that you think is a really important thing for maximizing both the individual's potential as well as the collectives?
Ooh, one really important thing. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the best way to maximize people's potential is to show them that they can. I think there are so many people who just see hopelessness, and to show them that glimmer of hope.
We have to tell people, I love you, and you're beautiful, and you're doing a good job. It's hard. Keep up the good work. Go forward, because we're all counting on you. You have to encourage, because a lot of that self-doubt, this darkness among us, people aren't achieving their maximum potential, is because there's something among us that doesn't want them to, that wants to lead them down that road of self-doubt and shut up, mind your business, and do what you're fucking told. And we need to reverse that and let us achieve our maximum potential, human potential, the humans that we can be, that we need to be now more than ever.
And this has been a recurring thing that we've been talking about. This show is this word confidence. The idea that in order to maximize your potential, you need to be confident. And it's difficult to instill confidence in people, like Ron was just describing, and like you were saying about hopelessness. What about the people that run around saying, I love you, you're beautiful, we're all counting on you, keep bringing that thing into the world that you're doing, and really sharing that love across the world. And then furthermore, when somebody maybe feels a little bit of that down, the vicissitude, the low of hopelessness, then there's these strategies that we can figure out how to help people most optimally. Everyone's different, but how can we optimize making sure that people find that confidence within themselves to want to go forth and build it?
I mean, I think you said it right on. Everybody's a little bit different. I think I've found a lot of people that I have sort of tried to do something like that for. It's, well, you want to do this aspirational thing. Well, let's break it down. What's the first step?
Yep.
So you want to get here. What's 2 steps back? Mm-hmm. What's 2 steps back? Mm-hmm. Where's square one? Mm-hmm. Okay. Square one is stretching yourself a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's do that.
Yep.
Let's keep going. Let's chip away at the problem. Let's turn this impossible aspirational thing in, an impossible problem into 2 really hard problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the block 1. What's the block 1?
Yeah.
What needs to happen to get to block 1? It's a very business strategy oriented perspective to how to design that last step. You want to get to that last step, you want to engineer it.
Work backwards.
Work backwards. How do you get to that first one? How do you get to the second one? What's the 4th one? What's the 8th one? Mm-hmm. So in order to maximize human potential, again, confidence is a major key. Is being able to say that you can and know that you can, that the impact that you're doing is really important, and have the society around you help foster that. Okay, that's beautiful. I love it. And I don't think we've had confidence yet for maximizing human potential, so that's a good one.
Okay.
Good. All right. Now we have a decent amount of conversation that has led us, especially with what we were talking about with robotics. We were chatting about Australia, Israel, Brazil, China, Turkey, all these countries across the world. We had this example on the last show with Sarah and Jay,
Yeah.
where they say that China and Taiwan can play on the same team, and they don't have to scruffle about any of the issues that they've had in their historical past. They can just move forward and play as a team with robotics in mind. And this is very interesting because their perspective is a very, and we were talking about this earlier, is a very, you dropped this in the car, I thought that was really interesting. Humanizing versus villainizing.
Yeah.
That was really fascinating. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much of this, like, tribalisms. We have nationalism, we have sectarianism, where people are defining, like, this in-group and out-group. And they are warm and welcoming and everything you would hope to the in-group. But to the out-group, they shun, they bully, they whatever, these unpleasant behaviors you don't want to see. And that's, in some sense, like they're sort of protecting their fragile egos and saying, these are the people who are good because they're like me. Mm-hmm. But I've seen so many examples of like people who, and especially when you're younger, you don't really have that tribalism as strong. And you meet people who might be in your parents' out-group. And yet you go, no, they're my friend. Like you've heard, I'm sure you've heard a lot about that in the like gay rights movement in the last 20 years. Like a lot of people were opposed to the idea of gay marriage. And then all their friends and family started coming out. And they went from this like abstract out group of like, no, I don't want gay people to be married to, but my Uncle Joe should be able to marry his partner.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like I've seen robotics teams. I saw one, they had, I believe it was Israeli kids with kids from the settlements, like Palestinians. And they were on a team together.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Yep. That would be like Armenian and Azerbaijani for us. That would be very fascinating. And I think that'd be very fascinating across all these little pockets of the world that are like that, Israel and Palestine. Okay. With the proliferation of information technology, we're seeming to become more and more globalized. It's looking like it's almost an inevitability. There are a lot of these pockets of tribalism still that exist, of nationalism, sectarianism.
Yep.
Where do you kind of see this all going in the next couple of years, if not a decade or so? How do we work together, and why is working together?
I mean, where do I see this going? There's this quote that's been bubbling around in my mind. I don't know for the life of me where it came from, but it's been coming up a lot to me lately. And it's that things will be neither as good as we hope, nor as bad as we fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, I really think that's what it's going to be. Like a lot of what this technology, this global communications revolution has done is it's exposed some of these and made them more obvious. And yes, there's certainly the potential that could create more violence. I'm sure there are cases where it has. But on the net, we have, so many more people who have become more visible and were excluded. Like we have people who are trans, and acceptance has gone up on the whole. So I think there's certainly the potential that like sort of uncovering those scabs in society will create problems, especially in the short term. I really do think in the long term, like, I'm optimistic that people will listen more and understand and get to know one another as people and not as villains.
Yeah. And I like the quote about it not being anywhere near as good as we hope or as bad as we fear. I like that. I think that is a frequent sort of iteration of humanity, just continuing to slowly increase and make better over time. But I do think that we face a future of vast technologies that are, it used to just be steam and then electricity, and then, you know, you would get electricity right afterward. Even with the iPhone, you would get the iPhone pretty much right afterward. People are still right now getting the phones right afterward, the smartphones. So that seems to be very quick, but then when you have the neuroprosthetics, and then you have the genetic engineering, and then you have the space colonies, and then you have the cryptocurrencies, and then you have all of these things happening at once, AI and robotics.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the globalization at that point? Right now, 8 people have as much wealth as the bottom 4 billion people.
Yeah.
Where is that going?
I would love to be a little bit more optimistic there. I would like to think that, you know, sort of the economy has built up in a certain direction, but it's always shifting and changing. And maybe you have a hill here, but it's followed by a valley, as it were. And that I think more people will realize that, yes, while they have less wealth, that fundamentally the economy is about labor, and they still do have power, and that people, you know, can go be an entrepreneur, and that yes, it may be scary, but they can go and build that project that they want.
What about when labor is not as important? Automation.
I mean, okay, so I don't know that automation makes labor less important. I think the definition of labor here is really key, though.
Because you can do creative labor. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. Sure.
Because labor is not manual labor. It's like factories. You know, 100 years ago, we had people like manually making things, and we still have labor going on in factories. It's just a very different kind. And I think the people who are doing things that are inherently creative, or that just like are not worth automating, not easily automated, will be around for a long time.
Yeah, so it's important to develop these skills into kids, these creative, adaptive,
Yes.
problem-solving skills. So what about the portion of the pie that's expanding with all of this, and then what percentage is going to the people that already have a majority of the pie?
It's an unfortunately large part. Like, I think it's important that we empower the people who, you know, the old middle class, who in some sense have become the working poor. That we find a way for everyone to come along and participate in this society as we move forward.
It's key. Find a way to get everyone to come along and participate in society.
To make sure everyone is empowered to do so.
Because it's humanizing. It's humanizing, not villainizing, to look at somebody across the world and say that you are still my brother or sister, you are still able to contribute to the conversation, to feel actualized. And it's getting a little bit crazy when you'd almost rather not take the risk of actualizing these people just in case that they harm the way that you want to progress forward. So it's a whole new, like, oh, the 8 people, why do they even have to touch the 4 billion? This leads us down the speciation conversation. It's class-based speciation of wealth. So
Yeah,
what?
I mean,
Intelligence augmentations, you have space colonies, you have digital currencies that you're in control of. There's so many different ways.
I think classism is just as dangerous to tribalism as nationalism. And if anything, it's the one that is it's on the uptick.
Yeah.
I think it's important to realize, like, yes, we have these aspirational leaders, the Elon Musks of the world, but like, we have so many people who need to be able to participate too, like the factory workers put out in Ohio, in Michigan, in all of that. And like, it's important to empower all of them.
Or to constantly run surveillance on all of them and then just prevent them from ever having children again. And then there you go. That's
fuck them.
Fuck 'em. Rod in the background. Yeah, fuck them.
No. No, I don't agree with that. But
No.
No, but you have to present that perspective, like Joshua Kaufman did on our show as well. I was talking about the janitors that work at Google and how on a MBA, and I mentioned this to you on one of the MBA finals at a college, the professor left only one question on the test, and it was who cleans the room afterward. And out of, I don't know how many kids scored that question right, but you would be surprised at how many kids would be looking at the final and they'd be like, what? There's one question, who cleans the room? How would I fucking know this? I studied all this damn text. But the point about it is that that's also a fucking human, the one that cleans the space afterward. And it's up to you, as especially within business, to know about who damn cleans the room afterward, because that person is extremely valuable to your business, and in many cases, integral part of it. Now the whole conversation comes into play: is that person as replaceable as somebody else that might be one of the leading C-level execs? Well, it's probably harder to replace a C-level exec than it is to replace a janitor. So then you get into that conversation. And this leads us down a little rabbit hole of like, oh crap, it's harder to replace a C-level exec than a janitor. Well, robot can replace a janitor. How much harder is it to replace a C-level exec with a robot or automation?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there you're hitting fundamentally this like new economy, how the world is changing, of information economy, as it were. That like knowledge workers are inherently hard to replace, not really automatable, where people doing some sort of manual labor are often not in that category.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, it's harder to find a C-level executive because there are just naturally less of them. But that like doesn't make them any more or less important. And
you don't think so? So is that kind of looping us back to this like nihilism perspective, which is that the person that's the C-level exec has less importance than the janitor does, or has the same level of importance because there is no meaning or purpose to the work that they're doing?
I mean, so if you want to define importance, you can. It's not inherent.
Okay, so that's why. Because the importance isn't inherently built into the system.
But
so then each human has the same worth in that lens.
Yes.
If you put that lens on, then every human has the same worth. If all of a sudden you put the lens on of now it's important to build this company that we're building, then the janitor is not as important as the C-level exec.
You could put that lens on, but I think it's like that NBA final. I think you're missing the point.
Exactly. So now these conversations that are coming into play is that like, okay, now this MBA final should be coming into your mind about the importance of that person. Are they equally as important as that other person that's involved in your company that handles the maybe millions of dollars or the dozens of employees?
What if the janitor has a brilliant idea?
And if only you were to talk to the janitor more, they could add $20 million more to your company.
Yeah. What if?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I think, like, an example that might be a little closer to home. If you think, like, I took a class on Six Sigma recently, and that's talking about operational efficiency. If you have a guy in a room 2,000 miles away from where you're doing the work, deciding how you should make a milkshake, you're going to have ridiculous inefficiencies. If you go ask the person who makes it, well, show me what you do, that they actually have a better understanding of the business than the person potentially designing a process for an entire multinational corporation. Like
so,
the people at the front have a better understanding of some things, and that itself is valuable to a business.
Yes.
If you want to put on more of your MBA lens.
MBA lenses. Okay, so maybe the guy that's flipping burgers knows better how to cook the burger than the guy that's sitting in the chair saying that this is the best way to cook burgers to the 10,000 people that are cooking burgers. Okay, but it could also be in reverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could be.
Whereas they've been passed down this idea of how to cook burgers for 50 years, and then they're the ones teaching the 10,000 how to do it.
And what made sense 50 years ago might not today.
Today. Especially when a robot's flipping the burgers. So, okay. I like that path that we walked down as well. That was a really good one. Maybe we touch a bit on the vastness of the cosmos. Do you think we're alone?
I mean, the honest answer is I don't know. And none of us know. But, like, if I, put my money on the table, is there some other life in the universe? Probably.
What would that life look like to you?
Would it be intelligent? I feel like is the question you're actually trying to get at. I feel like it's plausible that it's intelligent life. Is it carbon-based? Do they have something that resembles DNA or RNA? No idea. There are other models that have been proposed of, I believe, silicate-based life forms that have, I believe it's called left-handed and right-handed amino acids that have the other handedness as ours. Different.
Maybe they clap like this?
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
But I would say it's plausible that there's other intelligent life out there. But if there is, it's the classic question of the Drake equation. That you have trillions and trillions and trillions of stars, and some small fraction of them have the ability to support life, have been around long enough.
About one in five.
About 1 in 5 have appropriate planets. Like you keep whittling it down to how many.
The Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, how many planets are in the Goldilocks zone that have been around long enough that are stable, that are like the right size. And depending on the assumptions you plug in, you're looking at a number that's a couple hundred.
Oh, a couple hundred out of the trillions?
Depending on the number you plug in. And if you assume that they're randomly distributed throughout the cosmos, it's probably, the nearest one is probably, that could have life, which isn't to say that it does. Mm-hmm. The nearest one is probably millions of light years away. So, is there other life out there? Probably. Is it intelligent? Maybe. Will we ever talk to it? Pretty unlikely.
So if we get to the next couple of rocks and we survive, maybe get to the next star system or two, I think it's more likely that we get to talk to them.
That increases the odds, but the next star system is a light year away.
4.5, yeah.
Yeah. It's pocket change compared to the distance we're likely to be from the next nearest.
4.25, actually.
4.25, is
Yeah.
that it?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm glad that I'm glad you provide an answer that's, a lot of people have given a similar answer to that question. And it's intelligent people really, it's difficult to say yes or no, right? So you say maybe, probably, but at the same time, it's just pretty fucking, we're pretty sure. We're pretty sure. We just need to find it.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that, now this is a good question. Do you think it's going to have to take until we find an alien civilization before we realize that we're all one tribe on Earth?
Ooh.
I don't think we are. But we need to get that way. I don't think we all come from the same place. I'm just saying.
We don't all come from the evolution of the planet?
Well, it could be different experiments. There's different cultures. There's different levels of spiritual understanding. Everybody thinks they're right. That's one thing we do have in common, But we're obviously not all on this planet. We're not all from this planet. It just doesn't appear as if.
So Iran is potentially saying is that all the different cultural experiments that are occurring on the planet could potentially be that it's all from evolution. It could potentially be from maybe there was some life seeded from another planet or from another part of the cosmos, and then we had a seed on Earth as well. So could that be part of the equation?
I mean, one of the theories of how life came to Earth that admittedly doesn't actually solve how life came to be is, I believe it's called panspermia.
Yep.
The idea that like maybe an asteroid had simple life forms on it, and those have become everything we see today. So that's certainly possible.
Yeah.
And frankly, the answer is we don't know, and the evidence is probably billions of years gone at this point, to be sure.
And I think there might be a way to recover and figure that out down the line, especially if we tap into the code of the simulation to figure it out. Now, Nick, do you think we are in a computer simulation?
This is another one, and I think especially when you talk to a lot of people who are sort of science-minded, you'll get this answer of it's important to be sort of intellectually honest about what you know and what you don't know.
Correct.
The answer is I don't know, and it's hard to find evidence. The critical question is it possible to simulate not only intelligent life, is it possible to simulate a universe? And is there a maximum simulation depth, as it were?
What do you think?
I think there is probably a maximum simulation depth, but it's also probably possible to simulate a universe. So
What would be the simulation depth?
So it's a fundamental information theory problem. You could not simulate our universe inside of our universe, because you would need the entire universe just to hold the memory of our universe. It would take the entire state of the universe to hold the state of our universe.
But then there is unlimited depth if we're in a simulation, which is in a simulation, which is in a that way.
So then you have to inquire about the properties of like what kind of universe would it take to simulate ours. It would need to be like necessarily larger. That could be multidimensional.
Maybe, yeah. You
Like,
might only need a couple of fusion, a little bit of stars, you know, a
well,
little bit of quantum computing.
but it would still, you would need something that was able to hold the state information of the universe. Like, yes, you could play tricks. You could only, you know, like in terms of CPU usage, as it were, like you could only process the things that have like observers or whatever it is you're wanting to define. You could use like less CPU, as it were.
Just fixing this quick.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
But you have a fundamental memory
Wow,
problem.
I wonder how long that I wasn't listening. I didn't have my headphones on. I hope.
It was fine. It was
Okay,
not,
yeah.
it's
Go
not a
ahead.
big deal.
It might have not been optimal.
Yeah.
But you really do have a memory problem of containing all of the information in the universe. You need something bigger. Like, if there is a four-dimensional universe that's simulating ours, I could believe it could hold the whole thing. Could we be simulated inside of a three-dimensional universe? The thing doing the simulating would have to be as big as our universe.
Sure. Once you add the next
So-
dimension, bye-bye.
Like, are there multidimensional universes that could simulate ours? I have no idea. Is it possible in principle? Probably.
How about, what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
The most beautiful thing in the world, I would have to say, and it could be called something of a secular spirituality, that we, you know, as made up of the things in the universe, birthed by the stars, all of our carbon, that we are how the universe observes itself.
I do really like that one. We are the universe observing and experiencing itself.
Yeah.
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 It's one of my favorite ones. I actually said those lyrics in Matthew's song. It's very funny. So, last question. What is something that you believe to be true that nobody else believes to be true?
I'm not sure it's something that I would say that nobody believes to be true, but certainly something that is not commonly believed to be true. I think that young people have not only the passion and the excitement to do big things, but I think they increasingly have the power to do so. I think that, you know, we think a lot about like, there's sort of this idea, and I don't really have like a good phrase to put it in, but this idea of like, we have people who are very young who are excited and know nothing in the workforce, and we have people who are, you know, graying and knowledgeable, but they don't have the energy to do anything anymore.
Yep.
And like this power versus knowledge growth trajectory, like
I think that's a myth.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think young people have a lot of power, and the more that technology democratizes, the more we have people who are able to change the world given a little bit of know-how. And I think a lot of people underestimate that.
That's good. That also really brings me into the most beautiful thing in the world as well. Those are kind of, for
Yeah.
me, that's both very not common to be said by people, but also extremely beautiful. And you definitely see that in the eyes of all of the kids that you get to
Yeah.
work with, and I've really gotten to see it as well. And the last thing that you want is to be a young person saying something really interesting to somebody and for them to give you the whole ageism bullshit.
Yeah.
What do you know?
And I mean, it sort of matches my lived experience. Like, I've met so many amazing young people who are doing things that others might not think that they could or should.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've, sort of, as it were, I've pulled forward the veil and I've seen through it.
Yep.
I've seen that the man on the other side is really not a wizard.
I'm
Quiet, you clinking, clunking, clanking of collisionist junk! Silence! Sorry.
what a great way to come to a close on our episode. We covered a lot.
Yeah, thanks
covered
again
a
for
lot.
having me, Alan.
Nick, always a pleasure. Anytime. More amazing conversations to come. More great inspiration to be had, not only from these conversations, but also from potentially getting more people involved in great endeavors like First Robotics. Firstinspires.org. Become a volunteer, become a mentor. Check them out. Some more conversations to be had around the subjects of globalization, wealth inequality, maximizing potential. What do you guys think? Let us know. Write in the comments below. Send us an email, simulationseries@gmail.com. Let us know. Like, comment, subscribe if you had a good time. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Share it with other people. We'd love for them to also check it out. If you really find the content useful, become a patron. It helps us keep the studio alive, those lights on, the internet connection. We pay $272 a month for the fucking internet in this bitch. That's a lot of goddamn money. 50 megs up, 50 megs down, symmetrical. It's crazy. Y-Line. We need to get them as our damn sponsor. So a lot of costs that we incur. You'd help us a lot if you could join in. Anything, $1, $2, $3, $50, whatever. Give it to us per month. We'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much again. Much appreciated. Thank you to all the great family offices that also support the studio. Thank you. Thank you, Ron Vargas, our producer and director. Thank you very much. And we'll see you guys again soon. Tomorrow we got 2 epic people coming in, and we'll one of them is via Skype. One of the leading AI researchers, Roman, and then we have also Robert Griffiths coming in, who's running for governor later in the day. So much love. Talk to you soon. Peace.